Everyone has a story to tell. Welcome to Dingo Talk, where we explore the experiences that make us who we are. Here's your host, Carlo Guadagnino.
What's going on, Chuckleheads? I am Carlo Guadagnino. This is From the Sideline, a D3 Coaches Roundtable. Joining me are four coaches from four different schools in four different areas, although I guess Coach Baranek and Coach Palazzo, you guys aren't that far away from each other. But without getting too far ahead of ourselves, let's introduce the coaches. Coach Hilbert from Baldwin Wallace, talk to us a little bit. Welcome back. It's very nice to have you back, Coach. You started this whole journey for us in the D3 coaches space. You were our first interview. We're glad we could get you back on the program. Talk to us a little bit about Baldwin Wallace.
Yeah, Carlo, thanks for having me back on. Been here for 8 years now. Can't believe it. Got here in 2017 at Baldwin Wallace University. We've had some good years, been 49-21 over the last 8 years, playing the tough OAC. Like I said, I feel this offseason we've had a good offseason with the young men that are coming back. We feel like we got a good core of guys coming back. Feel good about our recruiting class coming in. And we're located in Berea, Ohio. The Cleveland Browns are about 3 or 4 blocks down the street from us, and have a really good relationship with those guys. We have, for us, about 3,200 students at our school. We're about 20 minutes from downtown Cleveland. And it's been a really good experience for me. Me and my family, we've been here 8 years. My boys now are driving at age 16, which I can't believe. My daughter is now a current student at Baldwin Wallace as a sophomore. But it's been a really good experience, and I'm looking forward to the 2025 football season.
And are we thinking about the Hilbert hitters, and are they coming? Are they on the radar for Baldwin Wallace as well?
Yeah, we got them on the recruiting. We got on the recruiting list already. That's right. That's going to be sophomores. That's right.
Next up, we have Coach Baranek from Widener. Coach, thank you for joining us again. Talk to us about Widener.
Yeah, Carlo, thanks for having me back. Pleasure to be here with all the coaches. Excited to talk about D3 football. Head coach 5 years now at Widener University, Division III program, obviously located in southeastern PA. We're about 5 minutes from the Philadelphia International Airport. It's a wonderful place full of rich football tradition. We're the 4th winningest program in the country, so this job comes with a lot of responsibility and expectations as we build this program back to what Widener used to be. We're excited about it. We're excited about the 25 season, and I'm thrilled to be here with these other 3 coaches tonight.
We're happy to have you back, Coach. Moving on to Coach Palazzo from Montclair State. Coach, thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining us again.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, thank you for having me. My name is Mike Palazzo. Been at Montclair for about 18 years as a player, assistant coach, and now head coach. Montclair State is right outside New York City, right by MetLife Stadium. We're a very large school, so we have about 22,000 students at Montclair State. So we're like a small city. We have a lot of majors that come with that. We have about 300 majors to choose from. So it's definitely a big atmosphere here. Doesn't feel very small when you get here. Our program's been traditionally very good, but like Coach was saying, looking to try to build that back up in the coming years.
Well, welcome back, Coach. I'm looking forward to talking with you. And finally, representing the South, Coach Mike Turk from Huntington. Talk to us about Huntington football, and welcome back.
Thanks. Good to be with you again. I appreciate the opportunity to join. I've been here 21 years now. Hard to believe for me. I came here in 2004 when the program was just 1 year old, and so I've been around and seen most everything that has transpired here for sure, and it's been a lot of fun. We're located in Montgomery, Alabama. Montgomery's the capital city of the state, and a lot of history here. I actually grew up here in Montgomery, so back home, so to speak. Our school is small. We have less than 1,000 students. And to be honest, athletics is a big part of the enrollment here at Huntington. We offer about 20 sports total, with obviously football being the biggest roster size sport that we have. So Pleasure to be here. Looking forward to visiting.
Looking forward to getting into the conversation. And Coach Hilbert, you're going to kick us off with our first question. What's a change that you would like to see nationally at for D3 football?
I think the first thing for me would be if we could start the season a week early and be able to have that national championship game before Christmas. I think it's long for those two teams that played. I think it was after the New Year to be able to, if you're able to do a week early to start the season and be able to move that up in December, I think that would really be beneficial for our league and obviously the teams that are in it.
Coach Bernack?
Yeah, I think for me, I guess I would like to see more of a uniformed calendar. We all play NCAA football, and I'd love to see our players have the opportunity to be developed like some of the other students at higher levels. Our guys at all these programs are paying for their education, and we offer what we can offer as far as nutrition and weight rooms and those type of things, and then we have to send them away for the summer. And we get away from our players maybe a little bit more than we need to. Certainly in our area, some of those guys are going back to places maybe that are a little different than when we have our eyes on them. So if there's an opportunity for us to have a calendar where we can have a longer spring ball, maybe get them in some more summer courses, be able to work them out. Maybe that would prevent injury, allow guys to have a better experience. And I think that's a buzzword that's been thrown around at a lot of institutions, is student athlete experience, student experience. We were all players at one time, and part of my experience in college was being around the guys. And I think as much as you can be around those guys and develop, that's as much of an education as you'll receive in any classroom. And that's just something I believe that the game has given me. And if we can get our guys there and continue to develop them like they can at some other places, I think it would just grow our game and make the game even better, even safer, and give our guys the best chance to compete and be recognized for their talents.
Absolutely, and it's interesting. We're going to come back to the spring ball point once we get through. I got a follow up question on this topic. So, Coach Palazzo, same question.
Yeah, so I was trying to think of something that maybe is a little bit different. Totally agree with coaches about the schedule and everything. But my thought was maybe something that we could build for exposure for our athletes that just graduate. I just had a nose guard that was pretty good, All-American, and looking to try to get him exposure past his playing time with us. So if there was some sort of uniform national All-American D3 Bowl, where we get together in a central location and it's just maybe Division III, maybe even Division IIs, whatever. But for the conversation, we'll say Division III and All-Americans run by coaches that do it, not these clinics or these scouting services, but actually coaches running this and getting these guys in this game, getting some exposure, having one place where pro scouts can attend for the week of practices and watch a game, and it just be D3 guys. I think that really helped give guys opportunity because I have a nose guard that was All-American this year, and we struggled to try to figure out ways to get him more exposure.
Right. So we're looking to open up the exposure that the same athletes doing the same sport. They just don't have a combine or an opportunity where the D1s have the All-American Bowl or the Senior Bowl where everybody comes down for the week and spends it with them. I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
And Coach Turk, how do you feel on this?
Well, my first thought was what was spoken about earlier. That was spring ball. I was the AD here for 6 years, along with being the football coach. 6 long years, I might add. But during my time as AD, we were literally about 30 or 40 votes from having the ability to have what we would consider to be a normal spring ball with pads 11 on 11, the whole 9 yards. It failed a very, very close vote. In fact, we came back and voted on it again. It was so close, and then it just kind of fizzled from there and dissolved. We got the shoulder pads now for 4 days, and it's certainly better than we had. But That honestly, that was my number one. But as a backup, I had to go back to the old timing rules of the game. A couple of years ago, the D1s changed how they timed their games with the clock continuing to roll on first downs. And, we all know it's to shorten, the length of the games that are on television. And,
Right.
and we didn't have a single game that year that went longer than 3 hours. In fact, most of them were closer to 2.5, 2:45. And we're taking plays away from our guys is all we're doing when we're shortening the game like that. And at our level, it's just not necessary. So.
Right. Now, Coach Hilbert, I want to start with your point that you made. Would the expansion or extending the season, would that be coming in week earlier than you normally do, which would kind of alleviate some of these issues where classes start, you got taken, you got all the things that happen while camp is also happening? Is that where you were thinking? That way we get the season started a week early, and then that would move the the Stag Bowl to New Year's.
That's correct. That we would come in, or I'll say a little bit earlier than we normally do. Obviously, still be able to have practice days. Like Coach said, I mean, it prevents injury too. The more time we spend with them, because some of these guys are not doing that regular running and lifting and stuff like that, to get them prepared for a tough season with all the stuff thrown at them and adjusting to college. I think that all that stuff helps with retention and your guys that are coming back.
And then the follow-up to, and Coach Turk touched on it as well with the spring ball topic. I guess I want to throw that to you. Why don't we? Why is spring ball different at the Division III level than it is at the Division II and Division I? Because I've had other coaches on this. This question actually came from the first roundtable that we had, and my big thing was everybody always talks about the safety issue. I don't know one coach that I've talked to that's going to try and go out and have kids doing. One, we don't do bull in the ring anymore. We're not going to do Oklahomas. And I don't know anybody that's trying to win a national championship and get somebody hurt in March when you're trying to input. But part of our game is hitting, is thudding up, for lack of a better term. I would be hard pressed for any of the four of you. How often are we tackling anymore? Are we really taking guys down, or is it a lot of wrap and keep yourself up, stay athletic, because you don't want somebody to roll into a lineman's legs or your running back's legs? So why is it that we have changed or not changed spring ball and just come into what the rest of the other divisions are doing? That's for anybody. Anybody wants to take a stab at it.
Yeah, I was going to say, when I was in those meetings, when I was the AD here, the discussion always came back to a couple of things. First of all, I think the cost of insurance that we carry on our guys is a lot cheaper, because we only are involved in contact for 4 months, so to speak, instead of having the other thing, and this befuddles me, but they always used it, was AT coverage. The athletic trainers being stretched so thin during the spring that football is a bear, and it takes a lot of manpower to cover, and those folks are already spread very thin during the spring with all the spring sports anyway, and so those were the two main reasons that I always got.
Coach Bernack, did you have something?
Yeah, that second reason is one that I've heard often, was the spread and thin of the athletic training staff, and and then I guess just speaking at our university is just field space, time, practice times. You got the spring sports, everybody's outside. There's a lot of logistics behind it. But again, I always, we're football coaches, we're problem solvers, and I think where there's a will, there's a way. And to me, I just look at when you look at the training and what you see these bigger programs doing, there's contact prep, preparing kids for the contact that's going to be coming in the fall. And, I think we lose a little bit of that. And it's a physical game. It's a demanding game. We all want to win. It takes a long process to get there. It's a long season. And the expectations really don't change. Certainly for the four guys in this room, we want to go out every Saturday and compete at a high level, just like every other coach in the country. But we're all at the mercy of our roster to some extent. And when you get one of those injuries and you look at it and you go talk to other coaches around the country and how they're training their teams at different levels, and you go, wow, if we had more contact prep, maybe these things would be prevented, and I'm not losing my left guard the week of the biggest game. And I love Division III that so many opportunities are presented, but the starting left guard at Widener is certainly different than the backup left guard at Widener, and that's going to affect our game on Saturday. And that's just the truth. So, you're just – that's kind of how I look at it,
Right. Coach Palazzo?
Yeah, one other reason that these guys didn't mention that I know I dealt with here for not having spring or not having a bigger spring was we had multi-sport coaches. So Coach Giancola, our head coach, who was the head coach for 40 years, he was also on the baseball staff and won a couple national championships with them. So they had to make a choice when they decided to do spring ball, whether they were going to stick with baseball or football. Obviously, Coach G stuck with football. But I know other schools maybe still have that model where they have guys that are coaching golf or a spring sport that they can't put that time in, and maybe they feel like it's unfair for the schools that have just full-time football coaches that can do a spring ball, full spring ball, whereas they might have to, split up their time between another sport.
And it's interesting that you say that. So Mike Sirianni said not so much for the coaches, but for the student. He was kind of, I don't really think anything needs to change with spring ball because you have student athletes that are running track or baseball players or are doing a spring sport, and that forcing them for spring ball kind of takes away from their experience, as you pointed out, the athlete experience that we talk about. So it's definitely interesting to think about it. I didn't even think from a coach's standpoint, coaching multiple sports. So moving on to our next question, Coach Baranek, this one goes to you. What advice would you give young coaches looking to break in to the D3 sphere?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think rely on your background, right? If you were a player, go through that network. Who was your high school coach? Where did he go to college? Where did you play in college if you were a player? And use your network. And I would say get out, go around the country, meet people, go to clinics, go to camps, work camps, let coaches see you coach. And when you're there and you get an opportunity, I would say do the common things in an uncommon way. Do something that stands out. I know the cliche in coaches is, you're a GA making coffee, make the best cup of coffee in the world, but it's true. Go do something that's going to make somebody else's day better, somebody else's job a little bit easier. And then when you get your opportunity, I'll give you some advice that I got when I was a real young kid from my grandfather is never eat lunch alone. You never know who you're going to meet along your journey. So when you got time, get out on campus, get across different areas of the university, sit down and in the cafeteria with someone new. You never know where it's going to lead. If I look directly at my journey into coaching, I got started right after I was done playing and spent some time at a few different places, went halfway across the country and worked in Texas, came back up here as an assistant at Widener and just tried to do the best job I could and bloom where I was planted. And then, in a year and a half of being an assistant here, things changed. And I had made an impression on enough people here that they said, hey, this is the guy we want to lead our program in the future. And it wasn't something I had planned for at that point of my career or my life. And it was a heck of an opportunity, and I'm thankful for it. But I think I just tried to do the best I could where I was at. I would give that advice to any young coach. And I'll tell you another story. When I first got started at my alma mater as a graduate assistant after getting done playing, Bill Manlove, who's a legendary coach here at Widener, who won the national titles. I went up to him and I said, hey, coach, now that I got this job as a young assistant, what should I do? And we were in the locker room and there's a whiteboard like the one behind me, and he grabbed a marker and he drew a big like smiley face looking thing. and it had 2 giant eyes, 2 giant ears, and an X across the mouth. And that was the advice that he gave me. And I got that message loud and clear. There's a
Right.
lot of great people that you're going to come across that have a ton of experience. Sit back and soak it in. And you'll have that aha moment as a young coach when one of those veteran guys goes, well, you've been sitting in here for the last 3 months. What do you think? And I got that asked to me. Wow, you want my opinion now? Heck, maybe I'm doing something right. And that's kind of how I went about it. I would say get out, camps, clinics, network, and don't chase something. Don't chase a logo. Don't chase the financial reward. If you want to coach, go be a coach, man. It doesn't matter where you're at. You have an opportunity to impact a young football player, a young athlete. Go and do it. If you're coaching middle school, you're coaching high school, you're coaching D3, you're coaching FBS, it doesn't matter, coach. Go coach your tail off and be the best version of yourself and pour into your kids. And that's the best advice I can give anyone.
Coach Palazzo?
Yeah, my advice would be find a side hustle and stay broke as long as you can. And I can't take credit for the second part because I think I heard James Franklin say that at the coaches convention. But it's true. If you're in this to try to make money, you're probably in the wrong profession, at least early on in your career. Like Coach was saying, go network and take whatever opportunity you can get. Don't be afraid to move. Don't be afraid to be outside your comfort zone because you never know where that could take you. And fortunately for me, it took me right back home. But I moved to Towson, Maryland on a week's notice and lived out of the back of my car for a full season and lived in my car and in the office for one whole year. And it was uncomfortable and I got paid $0. But I made lifelong friends. I made connections in the profession. And I know I landed back at my old school, but those connections and networking have really helped me a ton grow as a professional. So I think you got to figure something else out to make it work for you, because you're not going to get paid a lot of money. I mean, like I said, I made $0 at Towson. I made $1,200 my first season coaching at Montclair State. That's not really paying any type of bill. But I had a side hustle, which, I had to grind and didn't sleep a lot. But you make it work, and then hopefully you get to somewhere where you're a little more comfortable and you don't have to worry about that.
It's the second time I got to hear that story. It's still surprising. It's still shocking that you lived in your car while coaching. But Coach Turk, same question.
Coaches do some strange things, that's for sure. What I would say would be along the same lines. The advice that I give the young guys that we have that are looking to get into the coaching profession is that you cannot view this as work, and there's a couple of reasons for that. A very small percentage of coaches, especially at the college level, make a lot of money. The guys that are at the big time levels obviously do, but when you look at how many of the rest of us there are, obviously there's a ton more of us coaching at the small college levels that the salaries structure is quite a bit different. And then the other part of that is you're never going to put it down. You're always going to be, quote, at work because you truly love what you do. So if you view it as work, the responsibility is such that you're going to get worn down pretty quickly. And we still get tired and we still need to take breaks occasionally. But if you view it as a job or view it as work, I don't think you're going to last very long because, like I said, whether I'm here or driving down the road or sitting at my house, I'm thinking about something or trying to figure something out that's going to help us be a better football team and a better program. And one piece of advice that I got when I was a young coach that I did not follow, and sometimes I wish I would have, but I think it's a solid piece of advice. And that is, if you played on the offensive side of the ball, move to the defensive side of the ball as a young coach, and learn that perspective, even if you end up back home on the offensive side or vice versa. I think it's beneficial in a lot of ways, and I didn't have that experience. I don't have that experience because I've been an offensive guy my entire life. But I do try to do that with our young coaches that we are adding to our staff as interns or whatever. I try to move them across and give them that experience on the other side.
Makes a lot of sense, though, to switch to see something that you're not used to, so you learn it without having a preconceived notion.
Yeah.
Coach Hilbert?
I thought everything what the coach said are all really good things for young coaches to go by. For me, I would say one of the big things I would say is, just like you say to your players, don't get caught up in instant gratification. And what I mean by that, a lot of guys want to have the headphones on and call plays. And there is you got to earn your stripes. You got to go through the process of getting to that point where you're prepared and ready to call those plays. And like Coach Turk said, I mean, if you're a defensive guy and being on the offensive side or vice versa, I think all those things go into your preparation to being a special teams coordinator, a defensive coordinator, an offensive coordinator. It's not going to just happen overnight. And I think the other thing too is what Mike said too earlier. Have your head where your feet are at. Don't get caught up in the number after the D. Give everything you got to those kids, because those kids see that you care and that you're going to make a difference in their lives. On the football field or obviously just life in general, that you're there to help them. And I think they'll see that. And I think the other thing, my last thing I would go by is, and I thought this as a young guy, you can't save everybody. And I know there's some young guys you feel like that, hey, he might quit. You try to talk him out of it, or a kid wants to stay away. You can't save everybody. I used to really eat me up as a coach, and I've come to grips with that over the last 10 years or whatever. But to be able to handle that and be able to deal that with as a coach.
I wouldn't have thought of that, but that's a good thing, because you can't. I mean, with the roster sizes that you guys have, it would almost be. I mean, you try to give everybody equal amount of time, but it would be impossible to save everyone that maybe goes down the path that is a little different than what you're trying to accomplish, right?
Right. Because everybody on this, obviously, in this panel, you want to talk to these kids about, hey, stay the course. We see this thing's going to help you and teach you life lessons, but they want to jump ship. And I used to eat at me really, really bad. It still does a little bit, but it's not, try not to take it home with me.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense. All right, next question. Coach Palazzo, how do travel logistics impact scheduling decisions at the D3 level?
They have a tremendous impact. So we are opening this season with Merchant Marine Academy. We already play Salisbury, who runs triple option. I do not want to play another option school, but they're an hour and 15 minutes away. So
right.
It just makes sense. And that it comes before anything else. We typically can only afford about 2 overnight games, and we have 3 overnight teams in our conference. So on any given year, we'll play 2 of them. So I cannot schedule 3 overnight games in a season. And, that might not be the most favorable matchup for us. I mean, we've played some pretty tough teams that, my first year as head coach, we're playing Union, top 16 team in the country. But we did it as a day trip. And, I probably would have rather played somebody that maybe we could have competed with a little bit more. But financially, we couldn't make that work. It's really mostly about the money more than it is about the opponent. And I wish it weren't the case, but that's really the way it is for us is we got to try to find games that are day trips and local. And then this way, the money that we have, we can put into other things and create a better experience for the guys that we have. And certainly we want to make the road trips as good an experience as possible with feeding our guys and doing the right things by them. So, it's money is everything. That's what we've been dealing with.
Coach Turk?
Yeah, expense. He nailed it, and we're fairly remote. You guys know down here in the South, we're not as populated with D3 schools, right? So and honestly, we're blessed now to be in the USA South. Although, I have a conference game that's 9 hours from here. So that even though it's Southern Virginia University,
Right.
and that's not the longest trip in our league. Our league is pretty spread out from Virginia through North Carolina into Georgia into Alabama into Mississippi, and so there's some long trips that we have to take in conference play, and so certainly when you're on a year where you have some of your longer trips, you want your non-conference play to be shorter trips, obviously, to save some money, and those just aren't there, for us. So, it is a challenge, and like I said, we're blessed. We were independent the first, 10 or so years, that I was here, 10 or 11 seasons. We were an independent, and we literally went everywhere to play. We went to Salisbury, Coach. We went up there. We played Wesley, who was another independent back in the good old days. But we played Ithaca. We played in Michigan. We played in Texas. We played pretty much we played Colorado College. You guys probably don't even know that Colorado College had a football team at one time because they dropped
I didn't.
not long after that. Right, there you go. We went out there twice to Colorado Springs, in fact. So expense is the number one deal. We try our best to give our kids the best experience possible. When we go places, like when we went to play Hampton Sydney years ago, we took them to Appomattox Courthouse, and did a little tour on Friday afternoon before we went to the stadium for practice. So, we try to incorporate educational things and experiences along the way, but the almighty dollar, controls most of what we decide to do as far as our travel.
Right. Coach Overt?
Yeah, I think they hit the nail on the head with obviously the whole expense thing. We try to keep with one, maybe two at most. And the thing is sad because we went to Hampton Sydney for an 8-hour trip a couple years ago, and my kids had a great experience. My coaches still talk about it and players. It was a great experience to be on the road together as a team. The team bonding that goes along and all that stuff. It was an opener for us. Kids had an unbelievable experience, and you want them to have that down the road. And it just gets tougher and tougher because of expense.
Coach Baranek?
Yeah, I don't know if I could add much more. It's the same here for us. It comes down to the dollars and cents of everything. As far as Coach Turk goes, I coached at a school in Texas as well. We actually played Huntington in first round of the 2015 playoffs down in Texas when I was at Mary Hardin Baylor. And one thing you can say when you get kind of west of that Mississippi or you get down into the deep South with the it's not as congested as it is up here. And it's very hard for those teams to find games, and you end up kind of stretching yourself very early in the season. So you see a lot of big-time marquee matchups of what would be potential playoff teams playing early in the season and testing themselves, and that's a great thing. You see it at the highest level of football, but when those coaches call to a school like us in the Northeast and say, hey, we'd love to have a game with you at Widener, it's almost disappointing because I can't do the home and home. I don't have the means maybe to get my guys on an airplane and get down there. And it's kind of, I would love to give them the experience. I don't think there's probably a guy on my roster that's ever been to the state of Alabama. So what an opportunity that would be to get down to a place like that and visit and have a meal down there and be together with your team. But as far as we go and travel, we did Hampton Sydney as well a couple years ago. And it's usually the one or two games, and it's a shame because there's a lot of great places that kids from different areas may never get to experience. And through the game of football, you get an opportunity to go and do those things. And I think every coach here would love to be able to do that if we had the means. And it's just that's kind of the nature of the beast. It's a financial restriction. It's not necessarily, it's like Coach Palazzo said, who you want to play. You'd love to go test your mettle against someone from a different part of the country, and give your kids that experience, but you just can't afford to do it. And then when you get back into conference play, I'm from Philly, man. We eat hoagies and cheesesteaks and the good stuff. And I'm sorry, like I can't have just enough in my budget to give guys Subway. I'll have a mutiny, right? So that's important. Our guys want to eat, and that all factors in.
Makes sense. Coach Turk, you're gonna finish this off, and then I thought of another question for you guys. So we're gonna keep you for one more after this. Coach, what's the biggest misconception of Division III football?
Down this way, and thankfully this is beginning to change. It's taken a while, but Division III was so new to the South. When we started our program in the early 2000s, there was no Division III football in the state of Alabama. So the kids were not familiar with it at all, nor were your average football fans.
Right.
And so automatically, they think that the play is subpar, and that the players are subpar, and so changing that that mindset within the general population has been a challenge. Thankfully, there's been other schools now that play Division III football down this way that have helped to raise the level of awareness. And we honestly, early on, we had some kids come in here and they looked around and they couldn't believe they were full grown men in the weight room lifting weights, and they were, I don't know, I guess they were expecting a whole different deal. But that has thankfully, like I said, begun to change. And I think the other thing is that people in general and the kids themselves, I think sometimes underestimate the workload that's going to go into being a Division III athlete. They think, well, it's Division III, so it's more academic, and I'm just going to go to practice, and they don't fully understand what all's involved in being in a real college football program, and
right.
So those are a couple of challenges that we've had.
Coach Over?
One of the biggest misconceptions, I think kids think it's club football. Don't understand the competition, the commitment that these guys do on a daily basis. And I think some of these guys come in and are like, wow, these are the guys I got to compete with. This is what the expectations are every single day from the coaches. We get meeting time, film time, all this other stuff that goes into it. And I think some of them would think, oh, let's show up and we'll play. And I think a lot of them are shocked about all the things that go into it on a daily basis to be a good program at the Division III level.
Absolutely. Coach Baranek?
Yeah, I agree with everything that Jim and Mike said. I also think, and not to ruffle some feathers here, because my father was a high school football coach for 35 years, but sometimes you go out and you go recruit and you go into these places, and there's a misconception if you don't build a strong enough relationship with the high schools in your area that you're recruiting, that you end up getting, hey, I got this guy who's interested in playing football. And they don't necessarily understand that. I love the fact that guys have an opportunity, and your center was 5'9", 185 pounds and did a great job for you for the last 4 years, but I can't get on a bus and compete against Baldwin Wallace with that, and we all know that. And it's hard sometimes to get that through to some high school guys. So I tell our guys, man, really be old school and intentional in how you recruit. Don't get so wrapped up in the Twitterverse that you're not going out there on a daily basis and you are building relationships with high school coaches. And once you build relationships with them, they understand what your program looks like. You encourage them to come out across the country everywhere and watch a ball game on Saturday, see it with your own two eyes. Put on D3.com and watch Montclair play another NJAC team. That is really good football, man. And when people start to understand that, they understand what you want to build, you can be real honest with them. And then maybe you don't have the shock and awe when a guy walks into the weight room the first time and realizes you seem to forget at the Division III level that guys might stay for that 5th year when they get hurt and they're getting a master's, and he's 24 years old, and that is a grown man. There is no tomorrow for 99.9% of our guys, and they're going to soak every ounce of juice out of that fruit, of college football, and they'll stay as long as they can. And you end up having some really great players that way. And the more people who get their eyes on our game are going to realize that. And I think that's the misconception that we faced oftentimes.
Very well said right there.
Coach Palazzo?
Yeah, I agree with everything that you guys are saying. I think one thing probably on the other end of this is a misconception I get a lot is, well, this, from a recruit is this is the next step before I go to the NFL. And that's something that I really want to work hard with recruits. Like, look, this is still Division III football. And there are starters at Michigan and Alabama that are not playing in the NFL. So your chances of doing that from this school are very limited. And it's not a bad thing. And I know I have NFL jerseys hanging on my wall, but that's the 1% of the 1% that gets to do that. So understand that it's not a bad thing, and understand that your time is limited playing football, period. So embrace that experience, and work really hard, because most likely for 99% of the people that play our level, you're not going to be playing after this. So work really hard and enjoy it, because it's going to go. And the recruits that come to my office sometimes, and I say, "What are your career goals?" and they say NFL. I'm like, that's not a great answer to this question. So
a follow-up from Coach Baranek. How do we get more eyes on Division III? Now, I know there's a controversy on social media about, I believe it's Flow, right? That's kind of picking up a lot of the conferences, and some people are very upset that you got to pay the subscription to get the games. I see it from the school standpoint, though. A lot of, especially post-COVID, schools were charging people to come to the games. Then people couldn't come to the games. So now there's another revenue spot that you're losing out on, at least for the football team or whoever's running the 50-50 raffles at the games. So how do we get more eyes on it? And is Flow the way that we're all gonna kind of have to accept that that's where it is?
Yeah, as far as that goes, I'm not too sure of what conferences are doing that. I know our conference has what's called MAC TV, which is basically like our own TV station that they'll broadcast every one of the games within our conference, and you can watch them on the weekend. But really, I just think it's important for platforms like this. Coaches, get out there. When you're asked to speak somewhere, you're asked to go out somewhere, you're asked to present your university. Go present it in the best light, and have kids out. Outreach to your community. I do something, with a Pop Warner program that I played with, that's a couple counties away from where we're at, but I invite them out every year. So every year we have about 50 kids from the Pop Warner team that I played in. They come, and I treat them like it's a recruiting day. I take them around, show them the weight room. They get to do the pride walk with us and come into the stadium. And just maybe I can have an impact on some kid that says, yeah, my dream is to play for Penn State one day. But if they don't come calling, I can go play really good football at Widener or Baldwin-Wallace or Huntington or Montclair State. Like there's great places for you to continue the game that you're passionate about. I'm always a little bit old school. I think it goes back to recruiting. I think it goes back to building relationships in the community, building relationships with high school coaches, not doing the roundabout type of way, because a lot of the stuff that's on the internet is serving kids towards a purpose that may not be there. Hey, if you come train with me, I'll put this guy in Division I. Maybe, right? But that kid's,
right.
Might have been 6 foot tall and his daddy's 6'6". That's why he's in the NFL. All right, like go to the camp at Baldwin-Wallace and learn how to play football, or come to Widener and do our summer camp, and just see what our guys are about. Maybe just grassroots, and then really, get in with the people at your community. Get the kids involved, right? Kids love social media. And yeah, there's a negative to that, right? There's going to be some things that are put out there when a guy drops the ball and stuff like that, but that's a learning experience. Coach our kids through those tough times. Get more kids, go have lunch up in the cafeteria, invite invite a club out to the game, honor them at halftime, do whatever you can to fill the stadium as best you can. And there's a chance that highlight reel play is going to end up on Twitter, and then maybe somebody wants to come out and check a game out. I don't have the answer. I would say just get creative and just as much as you can do to publicize the game, do it. I think that's part of our responsibility as coaches, is promoting our athletes, to the world.
Absolutely. Anybody else want to jump in on that one? Or we can move on to the last one. We're ready for the last question? All right. So my question for you guys is, what is your understanding of the MPI? And we'll start with Coach Palazzo. Coach Hilbert, that seems to be the answer that a lot of us are down.
I don't have an understanding. So my philosophy has been and will always be win my league. Win my league, I don't have to worry about it. So that's our goal is to win the conference, because I have no idea about MPI. I have no idea. So,
Coach Turk?
Yeah, I'm the same way. We pretty much in our history been a one bid league. You win it, you get in. You don't win it, you don't get in.
Right.
And that's what I tell my guys. You got control of your destiny. Until you don't. And so I really haven't even delved into that at all, because it I don't think really matters to us.
Okay. Coach Hilbert?
I'd say win your league, or for us, I would say 9 to 10 games in our league.
Okay.
Anyway, I think you win those 9 to 10 games, or you win the league, you have an opportunity. But I don't know what that other
Coach Barron
means.
Yeah, I'm along the lines of everybody else. You got your schedule out there. Go try and win them all. Guarantee your spot in the playoffs. You control your own destiny. We're a school of engineers, man. I heard it's about something with dials or knobs and score. I went to an agriculture school, man. That'll remain nameless. So yeah, that's above my head.
I heard about the knobs and the dials and everything we're supposed to move. I still don't understand it. If Logan Hansen wants to explain it to me, he seems to have a grasp, so I'd love to get his explanation. But, coaches, I want to say thank you very much for taking the time here on this Wednesday to join me. Again, I can't say it enough. Coach Hilbert, thank you for being the guy that kicked me off and got me into this community. And to Coach Baranak, Coach Palazzo, and Coach Turk, thank you guys for joining me on this journey and coming back and talking to me and talking about D3 football. I really appreciate it.
Carlo, thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you, man.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
And for those of you that have watched the other episodes, this is the portion. The only other thing that I have to say is, if you haven't gotten involved yet with QBs versus Cancer, please check them out. It's QBsversusCancer.com. Carter St. John has a great foundation there where he's got quarterbacks training high school kids, working with youth athletes, and all the proceeds go to cancer research. Make sure you check our show, or my show, out, Dingo Talk. We're here every Thursday at 10 a.m. And keep an eye out for the Voices in the Stands, because it's coming in the fall. So with that being said, we'll catch you next time, Chuckleheads.
Involve the parent, or they didn't even call the high school coach, which I grew up with Coach Rad and Coach Walden, two former NFL guys, old timers, been around a long time. And, we were taught you had to bring the parent, and you certainly wanted the high school coach involved. So
I would definitely tell any recruit, don't just assume because it's D3 that it's going to be the full price tag, or it's going to necessarily be a ton more than a D2 or maybe a non-scholarship D1 level, like Coach Deet said. There's many times where it actually can be more affordable, and maybe even a better education.
For me, it's always a red flag if a recruit comes on a recruiting visit with us and he comes by himself, or he brings a bunch of teammates, because he's probably not looking at the right things of what DePaul and Carnegie Mellon and Westminster is all about, right? Because they can't see past it. They're looking at the jerseys and the uniforms and what the food was like, and that's all very important. But at the end of the day, you're going to a college to set yourself up for the rest of your life.
Thanks for checking out this episode of Dingo Talk. Don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe. For more info and to contact the show, you can find us on Twitter @Dingo Talk.